What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mach 1 method. Today, we're going to be talking about how to stay consistent when life gets in the way and life can be hard at times. I'm Coach RJ. I'm also here with
Coach Big Bad Bob.
And Coach Patrick.
All right. So, yeah, with training, I like to tell everybody that, we try to control all the controllables. Nutrition, with the exercise, sets and reps, hydration. We can control like as much as we can control, but sometimes life gets in the way. So a big part of, when that happens, like what happens next? Do you rebound? Do you fall off? That's what we're going to talk about today. So I guess Coach Patrick, in your, time as a coach, like what are some things that help people stay consistent or like stay on the path?
Absolutely. So I think identifying what the path is, right? So when you come to the gym or you start your own fitness routine, what is the goal? What are the expectations? And what is the path to get there? Are you working within a short time frame? Like say you're like a bodybuilder, you have a show in like 6 to 8 weeks, and we have to really crunch it down, be very locked in and consistent because there is a deadline. Or are we just trying to lose like 10 pounds just for like the aesthetic benefits? There's no real timeline. It's just like it would be nice when it happens. We could play a little more long ball with that. That really sets the level of consistency and how strict we have to be, how far we can deviate from that path, and how much we need to bounce back on, or how quickly we need to back on when things get tough, right? So overall, I would say coming in and establishing your goals is something most people want, like do naturally, but aligning those expectations is a huge part most people miss out on. And I think doing that is crucial for making sure that things go awry, you can stay consistent when life gets hard.
Yeah, and I also feel like too, I see like a lot of stuff on like Instagram where like, people kind of define consistency of their own lens and force it on other people. Where like, people are like, oh, up at 5 a.m. lifting, 6 journaling, 7, meditating, cold plunge, yeah, and then 8 a.m. journaling again, and then 9 somehow still journaling. I guess what I mean. Like, I've seen those like Instagram like videos and stuff, and it's like, I feel like a lot of times like what Instagram is trying to sell what consistency looks like, and that kind of like derail the average working person's own consistency because they just see like Instagram and they're like, wait, why am I'm not doing all these things? And it's like, why am I not? Maybe I'm not consistent.
Yeah.
And I've always tell like my my power lifters, my my athletes, like consistency is like a lens where it's like it's what's in front of you and what you know you have to do and what you need to do, and what everyone else is doing, that's their own consistency, and you don't have to follow their path. And especially when like life gets hard, it gets challenging, like things pop up, we deal with things. I think it's especially I have a quick story of one buddy. Was between jobs, and they had him working in his last job like crazy, but he's also job hunting, and getting to the gym was just like hard because he was there so late, didn't get his food in, and to him he's like, I'm not consistent, like my workouts aren't as good. And I told him, I was like, consistency only happens when things are bad. Like when things are great, everything, you're feeling great,
It's easy.
it's so easy, it's just like a ball rolling. And to him, that was being locked in, was things when things were easy. And then whenever things would derail him, he's like, I'm not locked in anymore. And you get all discouraged and just like, toss the program. And I'm like, no, dude, like, being locked in is when things are going terribly wrong and you still make it. Like, because then after that, it's easy. Like, I've had stretches of time where, like, my program gets hard and like I'm busy, or like things are popping up, or I have other commitments. And it's like, if I'm able to make it, then that's a win. And like, but when things are like light, I got my, feeling great for months on end. Like, that's the fun part, is when I don't really have to feel locked in anymore because it's so natural. So that's like something I told my, my guys is like, allowing it to be hard, but not allowing yourself to quit. Like, it's okay, it's hard. It doesn't have to be easy. No one said it's gonna be easy.
Yeah, I think, I read something about the rule of the thirds. So think of training in terms of like, sometimes training can be, easy, medium, hard, right? Like if training's really easy, right, that means we have to, pick it back up. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we flip the coin. If training's really hard, you might need to bring it back down. And you got to find that balance between those third aspects. So sometimes it's going to be really easy, like life-wise, and you can hammer away. Like you can train like hell. But
Take
then there's going
advantage
to
of it.
be there's going to be times where the iron's hot, like hit it while it's hot. But then there's going to be times where like you got family things going on, like work is stressful. Like how can you stay consistent? And I think that like we keep throwing around the consistent word, but I think how are you like staying disciplined?
Yeah, so putting that into practice is you always use the big rock metaphor, right? So making sure you're taking care of those big rocks is going to be the easiest way to stay consistent.
Yeah.
What that looks like is I can't make it to the gym for an hour today. Well, I can make it for 15 minutes and I can hit a compound lift and I'm just going to build up to one heavy set today. So, I have my 85% scheduled. It's for 3 sets of 3. All right, well, I'm going to hit one set of 3 and go because that's all I have time to warm up and get after. Guess what? You still put in the work. You still got that strength stimulus. It might not allow you to grow and, PR beyond that, but it's going to make sure you're not falling backwards, right? And you can take that same concept and apply it to all aspects of health and fitness, your nutrition. It's like, hey, did I eat everything perfect today? No. I went out, I got food at a restaurant, but I made sure that I got the protein, right? I made sure I hit my protein today, even though my, food choices weren't what I intended on having. I still was mindful of my goals. I still hit my protein. I'm still, getting closer to that path of success and matching my expectations. Same thing with sleep. Did I get a full 8 hours? No. Okay. Well, did I have a very eventful, stressful day? I was able to relax and sit on the couch for an extra 45 minutes, decompress, get a little parasympathetic. Like you're just putting yourself in these situations to best manage everything, and that goes back to like being mindful when it gets hard, right? All that stuff's easy when it's easy, but when it's hard, it's like, well, I'm not getting enough sleep. I only got 5 hours. It's just like, okay, well, am I going to go sprint a marathon today and max out my deadlift and put myself in these high CNS situations? No. Can I go through good mobility? Can I be mindful in my warm up sets, make sure I'm getting good activation and like working the skill of a movement, and take that and be like, all right, I feel so primed and ready to go that tomorrow's going to be a better day or next week's going to be phenomenal because I worked through all those kinks and everything that could potentially slow my progress down the following week. Like, there's still ways to move forward even if it's not on program.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. The takeaway is essentially like even though it feels like you're doing less, it's not that you're going backwards. You're just kind of maintaining at the very minimum, and you're getting some sort of stimulus in, which is better than nothing.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
And think about like like those rock climbing harnesses, right? If you slip and fall, it prevents you from hitting the ground, right? So having a good coach is essentially that support system where you have someone to check in and just be like, hey, I'm falling, I'm off the path. It's like, all right, we'll catch you. You're gonna pick up where we left off, and then just take your time and reclimb back up. And then once you're, back at where you need to be, keep climbing. So
Yeah, and I always think like I guess like mentally, I always picture like progress as sort of like a dance where like sometimes you're on rhythm, sometimes you're choreographed it, and then you go stretch at a time where it looks really good, but then sometimes you might just not be synced up that well. But as long as you're still doing it, and like even when it doesn't like feel good, doesn't look good, the judges don't like it, right? You're still doing it.
when
And
in doubt, hit the Macarena.
yeah, like I probably say like when in doubt, just start breakdancing. But yeah, like I honestly like for me, like I had a stretch of time this year where like powerlifting is probably my like not so first concern, and I didn't have a great meet, but to me like I still love it though. Like even though it, mentally probably like put me down for a week, I'm still gonna come back. And like I had some things to dealing with. Those are settled now, and I think it's just a matter of like what do they say? If you could fall down 5 times, get up six or seven. Yeah, like 6, 7. Like I think it's just a matter of
That
like
was for the fans.
exactly. Like you just gotta stay dancing. You just gotta keep fighting, no matter like how challenging it might be. But like I can understand from someone who's like maybe just getting into the gym how that might be too much of a goal to just keep dancing. Like it's probably easier said than done with them. So I guess from my perspective as like a newer trainer to you guys, how do you convince somebody when life for them is hard, who's maybe just getting to the gym for the first time, what are the things that you tell them to look for? What are the things you tell them to do to practice staying consistent?
So I'll start with that. First thing that comes to mind is having a support system, whether that's in the gym or out of the gym, ideally both. That's a good way to, have those conversations, like you were saying, your friends like fell off and like things get hard and I'm just throwing the program out, and it's just like, dude, just like conquer it, like do what you can now and then stay steady, work through the hardship, and then keep the ball rolling when it's easy, right? Having someone like you as a good support system for that friend is a good way for him to realign his values and expectations and say, you know what, I can keep going and I don't have to keep this downward momentum going and keep falling off the rails, right? And like going so far off path that you have to create a new path, right? So I would say starting off by identifying what your support system is. That's, maybe your significant other, maybe it's someone with a mutual goal, maybe it's a coach at the gym, it's a workout buddy, something like that. Yeah. So like find what's the best support system for you. Maybe it's one of each and you have a really good support system, then you're unstoppable.
Yeah, I think the support systems would be like your foundation. That's like your framework, and then on top of that, like the next step would be finding it. Like I kind of get it out of the person in the sense of like really finding their why. Because in order to stay consistent, like I could write down, like if somebody wants to lose 20 pounds, we could write all the positive reasons and all the health reasons to do so. But if that person doesn't want to do X, Y, and Z, which then the result of those actions then could lead them towards that end goal, right? Nothing's going to happen, right? So, finding it in the person, in the individual to be like, all right, I understand why I need to maybe sacrifice a little time to get up in the gym. I know why I need to sacrifice a little time to like prep my meals because I want this outcome or to get to that point. So I do think it's super important to find like a support system, but also like find that within the person themselves to then be like, this is what I'm after and this is why I wake up and this is what I need to do in order to get to that goal. Yeah.
I'd say
I can't do that.
it's okay.
Yes, you can.
We'll do it for you. I'd say that's something that we also like prioritize and pride ourselves on is trying to reduce the vanity goals and try and putting them around more lifestyle and performance related goals and tying in the why, right? It's like, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds. And it's just like, okay, why? And it's just like, well, it's going to make me look better. But like, what's that going to do for you? Like, why do you want to look better? It's like, well, everyone wants to look better. It's like, okay, well, why do you want to look better? It's like, well, I've been struggling with my confidence and I feel like this is going to help me, go forth and conquer whatever out there, right? Or it might be someone like, hey, I need to lose 20 pounds because like of a hormonal issue, and now you want a regular cycle and now you can start a family, and that's something that is like been taken from you from just like bad diet culture and poor exercise experience for the past decade. And by going through and learning like, hey, these goals are going to realign me to regulate myself and start a family and like start that new life, like that means more than the world to somebody rather than just 20 pounds, right? And then it's like, okay, well, I want to get stronger. It's like, well, why do I want to get stronger, right? And it's just like, well,
Stole my line.
I was hanging out with Bobby and he pulled 700 pounds almost on a deadlift, and I know I want to pull 700 pounds actually so I can be better than Bobby. Like there's like that competitor, like I want to compete in this sport, right? I want to take this to the next level. It might be occupational, right? So like there's a certain job that requires physical demand and you need to make sure that you have that strength reserve so you're not injuring yourself at work, right? So it's important to do stuff like that and put that on a different scale. That's the grandparents getting down on the floor with the grandkids and then being able to stand back up without using their life alert button and being able to babysit their grandkids without being a liability or high risk themselves. Like that's just opens up so much more opportunity to like have a quality of life. That's what it's about.
And something I wanted to add to is, I guess, when someone's progressing, years down the line, and that original goal they set, and that goal starts to like almost transform, and starts to maybe like elevate. So maybe the original goal they had is starting to like metamorphosize. How does somebody know from a coach perspective if that goal is metamorphosizing or they're diverting off the track?
So
Like, how would you to explain the difference to that somebody who's
to
not
kind
used
of
to
like
that?
tie in what I was just talking about with that is like, say you have a vanity or an aesthetic goal, right? And our goal was to get stronger, right? And we do strength training, and you're doing it consistently, and you're putting on lean muscle and stuff. You're going to change your aesthetic. You're going to look like you work out. You're going to see some curvature in the muscles and some definition. And, that byproduct of being consistent and working out is, hey, I lost 15 pounds and I put on 10 pounds of muscle, net change of 25 pounds. Like, hey, you reached your goal by accident because we focused on something else, right? So I think being able to identify kind of taking what that goal is from the original to like that transferable new goal that we're kind of pitching to them, chances are they're going to reach both and not even realize it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, as, people are going through their like fitness journey and their health journey, part of, what we do is like you would have a baseline assessment to determine like what this first stop is, right? And along the way, we're making these little pit stops, and then ultimately we get to that like first maybe big goal that this person meets. Then what? Right? So now like the goals change, and we set new targets and new heights, and I think it's that consistent process of measure, set in the next destination, and then how do we do that gap analysis and like needs analysis, like to get to that next step, right? So it's not that you're just like on this like endless road to nothing, but it just depends on like what that individual wants. Is it an aesthetic thing? Is it that I want to just take care of my health so I can play with my grandkids? There are plenty of goals that people come in here for, but ultimately I think it's up to you and what that individual wants to do with their time. That makes sense. Yeah.
It does make sense.
I guess like from my perspective as a powerlifter, like I remember when I first started like working with Jason, like I remember my goal was just to get as strong as possible and like just no end to it. It was just like a constant hunger for that strength. And then when you guys hired me, like as much as I still have that hunger for the strength, I almost value my athletes to be stronger than I was. And it's like I kind of like as much as like I love powerlifting, I love lifting, I love just the constant steps forward. It's the goal isn't as like aggressive and as immature was back then for me because I almost want to like share my experience more than I want to like receive it. And like I think that's just from my perspective. I felt that metamorphosis change, and I was kind of indecisive of whether I should invite it or is it me getting complacent or is it me kind of giving up. And I was kind of on the fence of like what idea, where's it coming from? But then I actually realized that I just genuinely enjoy more.
Well, right now you got Coach Bobby's hat on. We flip it around. We got athlete Bobby, right? So, but with that being said, like as a coach, you always want your athletes to have more than you. It's like kind of that parent mentality, right? But then athlete mentality kicks in. Like there's a reason you're in this field and have that passion, right? So it's being able to flip that switch and know, like, exactly, like know that what works for you doesn't work for everyone. And I think that's a big thing that we kind of keep circling back to in all these podcasts of like social media influencers and stuff like that. Like just because it works for you doesn't mean it works for everybody. Right. So knowing and having that wisdom and also that confidence in your skill and ability in yourself to say, you know what, I'm doing my job by making them reach their goals or helping them reach their goals. And that might result in them being stronger than me and me not necessarily upholding that strength hierarchy that athlete Bobby wants, right? Like that just comes with being a professional in this field and like doing what's best for your athlete or your client and selflessly serving. That is really what sets apart this.
I think that's literally what we're witnessing right now. Your like exoskeleton is yeah.
The quarter's it. What's happening?
But honestly, I think that's it. Like as an athlete, like you had that mindset of pushing to new heights, and now as a coach, like you're trying to instill that in the people underneath you. So it's to verbalize that in front of us is awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. And then, like, I guess like a part of me, not to close it out real quick, was like originally like I wanted to like conquer these weights for myself, but now I almost want to do it for them. Like now I can tell, like one of my athletes asked me, like one of my powerlifters, what did 700 feel like when you picked it up? I could tell you what it felt like. It was heavy, but like, but now I could like, tell you how it felt word for word, and like I almost look at it as like an opposing challenger. Like when you pick it up, it's gonna do this to you. This is what we need to work on to get there. Because I felt the failure of why I couldn't pick it up, and now I'm like, now I know what to do.
Well, that's also relative intensity, right?
Mhm.
So like you can say your max deadlift's 315. So if you put 335 on the bar
Yeah.
and you can get it to your knees, but like you can't lock it out, like relatively speaking, that's what 700 feels like to you, right? So now you have that empathy to say like, hey, this is where I was when I had that restriction in this gap in my training.
This is what I
This
did.
is how I overcame it.
Yeah.
This is a strategy that I think would benefit you. I've been there and I can understand where you're coming from. So let's use this timeline to not only do 335, let's get to 350, right?
Yeah.
And you can take that from athlete perspective to say, I've put myself in this position. I've experienced those, difficult times and that level of push to say that when you're out there competing, I can relate to that now.
I felt what you felt.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
And
relating to
that's
them. Yeah.
building that relationship.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
That's what's happening to us.
oh,
Power.
morphing. But anything else you want to add? Just a little recap action.
I think a little recap.
Yeah. So just to recap, how to stay consistent when life gets hard is trust the process. Make sure that you're evaluating your goals and your expectations. Make sure that you have a good support system. And then make sure that when you do set these things, not only are they like in line with what you want, but are they realistic? And I think as long as you're checking all those boxes off, then possibilities are endless, right? And it comes to just staying consistent with time and just let your body morph, and we're good to go.
Dang.
That's it.
All right.
That's how we do it. That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Boom. And Mach 1 out.